And we will call this meeting to order. Ms. Hamilton, would you lead the invocation?
Sure. Father God, we come to you now and we thank you and praise you for the moisture. Lord, we just pray that you continue to send that our way. We thank you for the blessings that you've just laid out for us, and we thank you for all that you do. We thank you for this great nation. We ask that you continue to just work your peace throughout this nation, Lord, and all that's going on with the unrest. We ask that you protect our law enforcement officers. We ask special blessing on all of our military men and women that are protecting this great nation. Lord, please be with these leaders and just give them the wisdom and the guidance today to make decisions to glorify you. And it's in your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
First up, approval of agenda.
I would like to make one change on the approval to the agenda. On 6D, request for appointment, it's the Ute Water Commission, not the Authority Board.
Ute Water Commission. Okay.
It's the Ute Water Commission, not the Authority Board.
All right. Any other changes?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda with the correction.
All right.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Approval of minutes from the June 8th regular meeting. Any corrections needed on that?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from June 8th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Moving on to approval of accounts payable and payroll.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the payroll from May the 1st through May the 31st, 2020. Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to approve the payroll. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And I will make a motion to approve the accounts payable from May 1st, 2020 through May 31st, 2020.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the accounts payable. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Public requests. Anybody here to speak and address the commission? I don't see any. Elected officials, department heads reports. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. So a few things just to run through. First, just to touch on, as we're well aware, and you're probably really well aware, we did sustain some damage to several of the county properties, vehicles, fleet stuff. We're still assessing those. I'll be filing an insurance claim after the meeting today. The courthouse roof, the skylights at the detention center, the skylights at the road barn, the vehicle windshields are easily replaceable, and there is a $2,500 deductible on all vehicle repairs, so most likely we will not be addressing any of the hail damage. They still function fine with that kind of damage, and so it'll be just trying to make sure that the windshields are replaced and they're still operational. The detention center fleet took some blows as well, so we're still assessing that. We're going to be documenting everything and then taking pictures of everything that's there, but patching, so that we can get everything going again, because we see that there's more storms projected potentially in the forecast tonight. The next update, okay, that kind of goes along with that, is we're continuing to monitor the U.S. drought. We continue to utilize the U.S. drought monitor. At this point, we are in the severe drought stage. We get triggered with the consideration of burn bans and such often when we hit the extreme or exceptional drought levels. So we have not yet heard from the fire chiefs or any of the volunteer departments requesting such a ban. So at this point, y'all have not had that brought before y'all because it's just simply as dry as we are, we're not dry enough yet to be triggering the ordinance that's in place in regards to the drought and the burn ban. I wanted to give y'all a quick little census update because things have changed since the last meeting with some positive news. So at this point, nationally, the average percentage is 61.6%. New Mexico is at 50.3% respondents. And Roosevelt County is 47.4%. In Elida, they are now at 52%. There was apparently a glitch at the federal level and they weren't recording the census completions like they should. And so Elida got that taken care of and now they are leading the way at 52% complete. Dora is at 50.8%. Portales is at 48.4%. Floyd is at 34% and Causey is at 29.1%. So we still have a big push on the completion of census, obviously. I did reach out to all the schools and talk to the superintendents, encourage them to send out additional messages to their students, anything that they can do to help. And then we also have Patrice Caldwell and Johnny Kane doing their radio spots, and they will start the 1st of July. And we also gave bags with logos and some information on the census to La Casa for their summer meal program here in Portales. And so they will be giving that out with all of their meals as long as those last. And then obviously y'all seen the census shirts around town, especially on Fridays, and those seem to be going over really well, raising some awareness, at least getting some additional visibility out. The next thing on the COVID-19 update, we are now taking our local EM calls to bi-monthly. There's been little to no change. We have our response set. Everyone is working very well together. Kennet Air Force Base at this point, after last week, suspended the weekly calls until there was a need for additional calls or something changed. And then, as y'all are aware, we did have one detention center officer test positive later in the week. They were not at the facility at the time, but they did test positive after. And as a result, we conducted 113 tests at the facility 2 weeks ago, Friday, and all of those were returned negative. And this last Thursday and Friday on our second round, we conducted 93 tests. And at this point this morning, I still don't have any test results of those. Well, I do. I have one from an employee that texted me and said they were negative. So we're still waiting on those to come back in. And that will continue at DOH direction until we're released. After this set of tests come in, if everything is negative, they could release us or they could require us to do one more set of testing at the end of the week. But everything seems to be working well in the facility at this point in terms of the response. And then in final part, so special session, we've been very busy monitoring that. I've tried to keep y'all somewhat informed on a lot of what's going on. It was a fast and furious session, and it was so unique with not having any public access. It was very difficult to be able to convey those concerns and really help educate our legislators on such short notice on bills that could have such a big impact to local governments and to their areas. But we worked really closely with all of our representatives and communicated with them as well as our senator just to make sure that they were aware of where we were at. As you're aware, they did pass House Bill 1 and Senate Bill 5. Senate Bill 5 was co-sponsored by Senator Engel. It had several projects on there. The only project that we saw lost in Roosevelt County was the ENMU President's House. That's the only capital outlay project that was on the list at this point. They did pass late yesterday afternoon Senate Bill 8, and that has to do with law enforcement and requiring cameras, body cameras on all law enforcement. There are many, many questions. There will be very intense conversations and planning as we set forth. I was speaking with the executive director from New Mexico counties, and we need to really look at policy, what that's going to look like across the state for everyone. And they're looking at maybe drafting some basic minimum standards, which I think will help us with our policy adoption. After speaking with Lieutenant Sanchez, we have 90 days once the legislation is signed, and at this point, all indications are that she plans to sign that. The election bill, Senate Bill 4, was passed, and there were some minor amendments to it that went through. I say minor, actually, there were some good changes that happened in Senate Rules Committee and really helped. The good thing about this one, and speaking with our clerk too, is it defers a lot of the decisions to our local clerks to make in terms of do they think it's best to mail out applications to everyone? Do they think it's best to not do anything? Like, it leaves the local decisions to our local elected clerks for that matter. So they will have that in effect for the general election. And then House Bill 5 passed, which is the New Mexico Civil Rights Commission, and that is going to be focused on the study of qualified immunity. We'll be watching that closely because that has a very big potential impact for our law enforcement community and the defense there. And then the next one is House Bill 6, which had to do with taxes. There's certain exemptions in there. They did amend it and add a certain exemption for healthcare providers. And then it also doubled the distribution from the previous House Bill 6 for the internet and compensating tax. If you'll recall, they put in a 2-year delay on implementation. And so they just are giving counties and cities a percentage that they think might be somewhat close to what our distribution is going to look like. So for Roosevelt County, that means an additional $7,200 per month. So right now our distribution is 72. Starting July, it'll be about 14,400. And the last one is they did pass Senate Bill 3, which was the Small Business Recovery Act. This one will be interesting because obviously there's still dollars on the table from the federal PPP program, but New Mexico felt so inclined that they needed to do their own program as well. So that was something else that was pushed through. So hopefully that can have some additional positive impacts here locally. And then the only other thing that I wanted to mention is that I want to monitor, but as of right now, we don't have anything pressing for our July 14th meeting. And if nothing else arises, I would like to look at canceling that one and just having one meeting at the end of July when we consider the final budget. That will allow all of us to focus on audit and the final budget and everything. And as long as, like I say, there's nothing time sensitive. So I will keep y'all informed as more of that comes together, unless there's something that's time sensitive that arises. Okay, the end. I would stand for any questions.
Any questions?
Do we have any word on reimbursement to the county? I don't know if you mentioned that at all, on projected losses from this whole coronavirus thing.
There is
Would it be the CARES
nothing.
Act, or so no word on that yet?
There is nothing that has developed at the federal or state level as far as that's concerned. At
Was
this
it
point.
addressed that legislation at all, at least for topic of matter?
They doubled the distribution. That wasn't the topic that they were focused on.
All right, any other questions? All right, move on to commissioners.
Good.
Anybody have anything they'd like to address now? Not seeing any. We will move on to agenda item 6, new business. 6A, presentation and request for approval of capital asset inventory listing. Ms. Rivera.
So included in your packet is the current assets for the county. As I prepare these, I work with the department heads or elected officials in their offices to review and verify their assets. And of course, they note any changes or anything they sign off on that report. So I'll stand for any questions on that.
Don't see any questions.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion we approve the capital assets inventory listed.
All right, I will second that. We have a motion and a second to approve the capital asset inventory listing. It was in our packets. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Item 6B, discussion and consideration of revision to administration organizational chart.
Yes, sir,
Ms.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners. So included in your packet was the proposed change for administration. What we are looking at doing, we went out for RFP for court compliance, which includes the misdemeanor probation and DWI compliance monitoring. We were not satisfied with the results of the RFP or the proposals that we received. And we actually, as we continue to do more research, more and more counties have actually brought that in. And we didn't find a single county that still had it as a contract position, which is how we had it established. So what we're recommending is that we bring it on. It would be classified as a grants and at-will position. So it's all based on funding. It'll have a $0, it should have a $0 cost to our budget because they generate fees that in turn will cover the cost of the program. But that will give us more of the internal controls and accountability that we feel is necessary for this program. And so you will see it's in the administrative chart, but I have it under detention. That is a very fitting place for this type of service. And I have spoke with several of the key individuals in this, and this was their recommendation throughout the system as well. They asked the county to consider taking it internal rather than having it as a contract to help with this. So I would stand for any questions.
It's not putting no more liability on us, will it?
No, it is all stuff that we will have covered under our insurance. It's just part of the services that we provide. And again, Lee County, Curry County, Chaves County, all the area ones that are close to us have it as an internal. And I can't remember who some of the other counties we heard back from are, but they all have it as an internal.
Yeah. All right, any other questions? All right.
Mr. Chairman, will you approve the organizational chart?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the revision to the administration organizational chart. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Item 6C, designation of commissioners to participate in the fiscal year 20 financial audit meetings.
Yes, so Commissioner Hutton and Commissioner Dixon were so excited to serve in this role last year, but I don't know that they're wanting to do it again this year. So if you are, great. If not, we just need 2 commissioners to attend the entrance and the exit meeting. We don't want a quorum. This is not a public meeting. I just need 2 of y'all to volunteer to be involved in the process. It's very minimal.
I'll do it again.
And Shane? Perfect, thanks.
You in? Yep. All right.
Tina and
Tina and Shane. All right, item 6D, request for appointment to Ute Water Commission. Commissioner Dixon.
Yes, on this, I did not realize, I was just brought aware of the fact that we still have a seat on the Ute Water Commission. We do not have any water reserve. We gave that to the city of Portales, but we still have a seat on the commission, not the water authority. And I would like to be appointed that. I have, of course, Portales is in that, and so is Elida, which is in my district. So anyway, I would just like to be appointed to that position.
Tina, can I ask you a question?
You can.
What would it benefit the county for us to have somebody on the, because we don't do nothing with water.
Well, because we have a,
City or the city of Elida.
the city of Elida does, we have this.
I know
Oh,
the city of Elida, but
Yeah.
as a
Well,
board of commission, what good would it do?
in my personal opinion, and this is just my personal
Mhm.
opinion, it comes down to votes, and I mean, when you've got, it's gonna bring more of the votes towards our area, towards Curry County, Portales, things like that, rather than out the river like it, because there's a lot of Tucumcari right now. And I think we need to keep up with what's going on around here for our people, but the seat is open anyway, so, I mean, we still have the seat whether or not we have somebody in it or not, because for the past 2 years, we haven't had anybody sitting and vote.
Would that be something you'd voluntarily do, that the county wouldn't be like paying
No, you don't pay anything.
nothing out of our budgets or?
That was my
Commissioner,
question.
but-
I have no idea. I haven't seen anything in writing, so I didn't know if there was any financial
There's no
responsibility or
financial
anything.
responsibility to sit on it, because it's just an open seat.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, I think it's just being in the no position, that if there's this open spot for a county commissioner to be seated in, there's someone like Commissioner Dixon that's willing to be in it. I think that's just a plus, in my opinion.
Can I ask one question?
You
Just
can.
because, and this has nothing to do with, what's the distinction between the commission and the authority? Because I'm not, do you know?
Yeah, the authority actually is,
They're in charge of the water.
they're in charge of the pipeline.
Yeah.
And the water. The commission, from what I understand, like, they are in control of the actual, of the water and what happens, but the authority does the pipeline. It's all of the individuals that are on, that have water rights, like Texaco dropped out, so they lost their place on the authority. Or not Texaco, I'm sorry, Melrose.
Melrose.
Melrose. Grady, they dropped out, so it's all of those. And that's when you were talking about, speaking to, Orlando the other day. He's on that, not the commission.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to appoint Commissioner Dixon to our seat on the Ute Water Commission with on a voluntary basis.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to appoint Commissioner Dixon to the Ute Water Commission. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 7A, consideration of resolution 2020-18, fourth quarter part 2 budget adjustments. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, so Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, should have been generous and given this to Ms. Rivera since she's here. But this is a very simple change. It was included in your budget. It's simply $25,000 added as both revenue and expense for the state support of Medicaid. This is the 1/12 or 1/16 that they intercept from us anyway. And so all we're doing is making room budgetarily for that through our gross receipts process.
Mr. Chairman, move we approve resolution 2020-18.
All right, I will second that. We have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2020-18. All in favor? Let's go down the line. Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
5 yes votes. The resolution passes. Item 7B, consideration of resolution 2020-19, establishing a designated special reserve for capital improvements. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. So this resolution that was included in your packet is just trying to be very forward thinking. We had some expected GRT that are only one time, as we're aware of with our wind project that's going in and such. And those are not things that you can ever budget on for operational, but they're great things for capital outlay. And this is something for our capital improvement projects. We're talking about buildings, vehicles, fleet, anything like that that we need to address. But it's to give the board an ability to have an additional fund for that. So the way that this resolution is designed is just to start the process. So Lee County, Torrance County, Santa Fe County, Bernalillo County, those are just a few of the ones that have this type of thing in place. And they're the ones that we've seen some sample resolutions. And I think Torrance County was even considering it as an ordinance. But this is what we're asking for. As you're aware, we already have requirements of a 3/12 for the general fund and a 1/12 for the road. So that will continue. That's state required. This is just above and beyond. So any year that the commission has additional cash balances sitting, the commission would be able to, as a board, designate and move money there because we already have our reserve well established. The treasurer's done a great job of maintaining those set of investments. This would just be another account. And at this point, we be looking to move up to about 1.5 million, depending on how everything closes out in June. We would probably keep about 500,000 of it liquid or cash, liquid, ready, accessible, and then allow investments of the other 1 million. So again, long-term planning. With capital outlay projects, we know that we potentially could have a roof project that we have to also have some monetary involvement in. We have an initial award and that has not yet been stripped. So as long as we receive those projects, we also will have a road barn project potentially later this year. So this would be capital to be able to work on those projects.
So it's pretty much just a emergency account.
Or a long-term planning too. Like that way we don't have to, y'all wouldn't have to consider capital expenses out of your operational funds, because you know how hard it is every year for us to get that operational fund in the black. So this would take that burden off of that and alleviate it.
But it wouldn't be earmarked for anything, just capital outlay. We could use it, say we had a fleet go down.
It could come before the board. Y'all could choose to use that if you did not want to use your regular general fund obligations. It's just something that could help throughout the entire budget process.
Ask the treasurer, is that anything, is having another account like that gonna mess up anything that you have? Yeah, way back there in the back.
Commissioner, no, it will not affect anything differently. It's just adding another account. You know, just make me work harder. That's okay.
You're a smart girl.
No, actually, it's a very good idea to have an additional
Something easier to move the money with.
set aside, protected.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept resolution 2020-19 establishing special reserves, capital improvements.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2020-19. Commissioner Greider?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
5 yes votes.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 8A, request for approval of contract renewal with Dora Knudsen for legal services. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, so before you, it's our time to look to renew, and thankfully, our fearless county attorney agreed to suffer through with us again. I'm super excited. There were no contractual changes on the proposals, and it was included in your packet, and I would stand for any questions.
Any questions?
She said there was no changes, it's the same as the one we went through last year.
Just a renewal.
Yep.
I'd just like to mention one thing, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, Amber, Randy. I'd like to just take this time to acknowledge Randy in his office. I know anytime that I've had any issues, questions, or anything, he's always had an open door policy for us and has pretty much, probably 100% of the time given us the most accurate and information that we've needed, whether it's something we want to hear or don't hear. So I'm proud to have him as part of our team.
Mr. Chair, on item 2 under compensation, it says the county shall pay the contractor in full payment for services satisfactorily performed at the rate of, and it's written out at $225, and then in parentheses it says $215 per hour plus acceptable gross receipts taxes. So is it 215 or is it 220?
It's 215, and that typo was corrected. Our fearless clerk pointed that out first.
I didn't catch that.
To item 2 under compensation.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, is that a motion, Bill?
Yes, I'll make that informed motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Members of the board.
I'll second Commissioner Lopez.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the contract for renewal with Dora Knudsen for legal services. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Moving on to, item 9, executive session. Anyone? All right, I'll do it. I'll make a motion to move into executive session pursuant to 10-15-1 NMSA 1978 H2 limited personnel matters, attorney-client privileged information pertaining to threatened or pending litigation, specifically the McFarland versus Roosevelt County, Alonzo versus Roosevelt County, national prescription opiate litigation, and to discuss attorney-client privileged information relating to pending or threatened litigation and/or limited personnel matters.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session. Commissioner Greider?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. We will, do we have a side room we could go into or
No.
no? Okay.
And I have this to, right
You
there,
don't have a key to that room?
that room.
That's where all the chairs and tables are.
Where's the couch room?
The couch is-
Yeah, this one's,
Paige, go sit in the pickup, babe. I'll be out in a minute.
we're gonna go right in. Yeah,
Wait, no, we don't want them first.
no, not, Amber,
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 Amber.
not first. We'll call them in.
I better share something with y'all first.
Is the recorder off? Amber, is that recorder turned off?
Unplug it.